Alright, so how many of you noticed the drastic change in the weather lately? It's ridiculous. It's everywhere. It's everything we do, we have in our lives. Now, most of us are probably just going to say, well, I don't wear a jacket today, or I just take a shirt off today. Well, the truth is, it's bigger than that. Climate change, it's affecting us all, and, well, according to some people, in the next 100 years, we pretty much all die if we don't do something about it. Now, I was kind of curious on the fact that we seem to care less and less about climate change as we go on. I looked up on GallupPoll.com, and they actually had interesting figures. Back in the 1970s, it was 75% of people were interested in fighting global change and global warming. Now, the number has dropped to 55%. And so I went into a little bit more study in depth, and I ran into Norwegian psychologist Per Espen Stoknes. He's actually one of the front runners in the psychology of global change and global warming, and he notes these things that, well, he calls it a paradox. He calls it a psychological climate paradox. As we note in civilized countries or industrialized countries, the more science that we have showing climate change and global warming, the less we're interested about it. Now, I was even more curious on why this would occur. It doesn't make any logical sense. And Stoknes, he even goes a little bit farther. He has 5 psychological reasons on why we think this. We have distance, doom, dissonance, denial, and identity. These 5 issues pretty much explain why this unnatural phenomenon has occurred. With distance, it's so far out that we feel like we don't have to do anything. We probably all feel that global warming, it won't affect us, it won't affect our generation. And because of that, we can wait it out. There's no need. But the truth is, if we don't do something now, it's our grandkids who will suffer the consequences. If we look at doom, it's the whole thing that if you look on media, it's pretty much we either do it now or we all go and die 20 years from now. We all blow up somehow. And with dissonance, it's the hypocrisy that we feel. It's simply we rely on these resources that are the problem. Our cars run on fossil fuels. Our planes pollute the air as they fly. Our cows that we eat for meat produce more carbon dioxide than anything else, than humans. They're the main problem. But because we're eating these things and doing these things, we don't really care, because it will go against what we already are doing. If we look at denial, it's the same old story we all know. You're denying it because you don't want to know its existence. You simply don't want to admit to it because you're scared. And if we look at identity, it's the simple fact that all of us have our notions. We have our philosophies, we have our ideas and ideals. And if something is coming up to contradict these ways or our thoughts or everything we stand for, we simply fight back with more criticism. We can't take the whole idea of our current identity as a civilization is incorrect. It needs to be changed before it's too late. And so with these 5 psychological barriers, I kind of began to understand why we as a civilization kind of put climate change aside. We don't really worry about it now, because why do it now if someone else can do it later? And now he also discusses on why or how we should go about these things, and it's pretty simple. We flip the barriers. Now that sounds simple, and I said it was simple, but at the end of the day, it's probably the most complicated thing we could ever do. It's not easy, but it has to change from a doom to happiness. We have to look at it on the fact that nature has survived for millions of years. It can survive. We just need to push it along. Hope goes a long way. It's really kept the human society alive. Without hope, you probably wouldn't be here today. The greats rely on it, and we have to too. We have to work with nature. We have to be willing to cooperate instead of destroy. And maybe if we change the perspective on how to change global warming to a positive instead of a negative, we can start to change the world. Sooner or later, we're all going to be lost at sea, whether we like it or not.